Your Royal Highness, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the City Hall and the annual Oslo Business for Peace Award Ceremony 2019. The City of Oslo is proud to be a long-standing partner of the Business for Peace Foundation And we are proud to host the awards ceremony here in the heart of our city. The city of Oslo is committed to the UN's Sustainable Agenda. And as many of you know, Oslo has been awarded the European Green Capital 2019 by the European Commission. I believe it is our attempt to walk the talk that awarded Oslo the European Green Capital title. This comes with expectations to share solutions, to involve citizens and the business community, and to keep on delivering ambitious environmental and climate policies. Oslo are among the fastest growing capital cities in Europe. We are deeply aware of the fact that to the transition to a sustainable future, we need participation and leaderships from all parts of society, not at least the business sector. 10 years ago, in 2009, the Business for Peace Award was giving out for the first time here in this hall. Since then, the Business for Peace Foundation has grown to be a part of a global movement to change business leadership, putting social good at the center of the business efforts. In addition to the annual award, the Foundation has started several important initiatives, such as the Businessworthy Pledge, the Oslo Climate Leadership Declaration, and this year, the SDG Impact Springboard. I support these initiatives. There are ways of engaging the business leaders around the world in making a change for the better. As cities, we face significant challenges to globalization and climate change, but also challenges related to inequality. Social and economic inequalities are complex issues. Now, more than ever, we need business leaders who prove that there are other ways to creation value than only out of financial profits. The solution to today's challenges and imbalances in the technology, innovative business models, gracious leadership, and new forms of collaboration. The business-worthy leaders who are this year's Honourees are stellar examples of having a drive to make difference and ability to do so in practice. They have worked out hard to counteract inequalities, encouraging inclusion by providing access to health, aid, and work. You are the role models and inspiration for us all. Let us now celebrate and be inspired by this year's Business for Peace Honourees, men and women who guide the way to a better and more sustainable future. Thank you.
Your Royal Highness, Excellencies, Mayor, Governing Mayor, as I normally call you, executive producer, viceroys, baronets, and dukes. I don't know if there are any such here, but it's fun to say. And most of all, to each and every one of you, and you Honourees especially, and Madame Bourgeois, it's such an honor to have you here. Wonderful to be together. There's an old Irish story I heard about a man visiting the small Irish village of Ballymore. And he asks a local farmer, what is the best way to get from here to Dublin? Whereupon the farmer answers, well, to get to Dublin, I wouldn't start from here. My friends, in a world where we ask how businesses can serve peace, stability, balance, sustainability, and good governance, we have no choice. We have to start from where we are. Our task tonight is to honor, celebrate, and learn from some of those who have started on that road. The road towards preserving and further developing the ideal that good business practices can, morally speaking, indeed must, serve and facilitate peace and sustainability. My specific task as Master of Ceremonies in all of this is to make sure we end on time, which means no later than a few minutes past 6:30 p.m. Norwegian Daylight Savings Time tomorrow night. Or tonight if you want. See how it goes. Now, the world of business is complicated, which also makes the challenge of sustainability and business worthiness in business complicated. It's indeed a big jigsaw puzzle with lots of different and sometimes oddly shaped pieces. I remember the story of the man who is so happy that he has finally completed the jigsaw puzzle. He shouts, "I'm finished!" And his wife says, "Well, that took you 3 months." And he answers, "Well, that's nothing on the box. That's 2 to 3 years." Some things seem simple, but they are not. The Business of Peace Award is an award to those who dare get started on that list, whatever time it will take you to finish it. It is also an award for that most elusive yet important of abilities, namely, to be driven by more than one motivation at a time. A serious businesswoman or businessman must strive to earn a profit, of course, and to produce goods and services that are wanted and needed. But what if that search for profit ends up jeopardizing peace, corrupting our institutions, or destroying our environmental resources? Turning a profit in that case feels like the story of the doctor who exclaims, "Yes, it's true, my patient died, but at least his fever is gone." Human success is more than a metric, my friends, even when that metric is very important. We have to be motivated by more than just the metric of profit. Let this serve as an introduction to our keynote address this evening. The State of the Union between business and society. We will hear from none other than Achim Steiner, the Administrator for the United Nations Development Programme, the UNDP, an important partner of the Business for Peace Foundation. He is also Vice Chair of the UN Sustainable Development Group, which unites 40 UN entities that work for sustainable development. He is an academic and administrator. That was hard. I'll get better from here on. An activist, and not least, a thought leader. One of those who does not only know where we should be going, but who also has some idea about how we get from here to there, with the indispensable aid of business-worthy businesses. It is my great pleasure, and it should indeed be your great pleasure, to welcome Achim Steiner to the stage.
Your Royal Highness, Governing Mayor of Oslo, distinguished Business for Peace awardees, ladies and gentlemen, dear pair. It is a great honor and indeed a privilege to join you here this evening and to be invited to address you on an occasion that, both in terms of the awards that you are giving here this evening, is extremely meaningful, but it's also to speak to you about the role of business, society, government at a moment in time when we often seem to be lost for simple answers. And to do so precisely because on this podium sit individuals who represent that which is attempted every day to find better ways and better answers, is precisely why not only an award is so useful, helpful and welcome, because first of all it recognizes leadership, courage, the willingness to try things out where others give up, but also because it inspires the millions of others who are both capable of doing the same, but often lose heart and confidence because we so often dwell on failure. To be here in this hall also, where history has so often celebrated extraordinary courage, ingenuity, and also the willingness to lead, is also, for me personally, extremely meaningful. But I address you in the few minutes here this evening as one of the people who lead the United Nations from inside. I head the United Nations Development Programme, where we are extremely honored to have His Royal Highness be a Goodwill Ambassador. And again, it is wonderful to be here, to have had an opportunity to enjoy, Your Royal Highness, your hospitality, your generosity, and above all, your commitment to this idea that the Sustainable Development Goals, that the United Nations and Sustainable Development are in fact an integral part of our hope to make this world more peaceful, more equitable, and ultimately a place in which 7, soon 8 or 9 billion people can live together. My remarks very briefly do dwell on the state of the union between business, society and government. And I think in many respects this evening's awardees speak to a next generation perspective. Because let us remember, it is only 20, 30 years ago that we were engrossed in a battle of ideology that, first of all, it would be the state and government that would fix all problems on our planet, in our societies. We then oscillated to the other extreme, arguing that it would be markets and business that actually hold the key to the future, and government is simply in the way and likely to be an obstruction rather than an enabler. Some of that ideological battle led us into a moment where the world nearly went bankrupt a few years ago. It is when the excess of one believing that it can do without the other takes over that we commit some of the gravest errors, sometimes out of ignorance, sometimes out of arrogance, very often out of a lack of humility, because we do not realize that in order to succeed as human beings, as communities, as societies, we need one another. Government is not the expression of tyranny over citizens. It should be, we aspire it to be, the expression of democratic will, where we are able to rely on our government institutions to mediate in our societies despite our differences, in order to be able to work together and, in the language of the Sustainable Development Goals, to leave no one behind. Because the truth is that in our world today, a world in which very often the view of economics and economy and markets being the singular driver of progress, the singular measure of success, have led us to a point where in many societies inequality, marginalization, alienation have actually left too many people behind, and those people begin to turn away from their societies. The coming together of business and government, the state and the market, is critical. It is crucial to being able to address the challenges of our time, and I will not take more of your time to list them. You know them, you hear about them. We in the United Nations every day try to speak to the peoples of the world, not only about the challenges we face, the imperative to act, but we also provide a part of the answering commitment that is so essential, namely that we cannot succeed in isolation from one another. Just like business cannot operate without government and regulation and markets, governments cannot succeed in leveraging and mobilizing the investments that are needed to move us towards a low-carbon economy, to help us move into a cyber economy, into a digital age in which data does not become just a commodity, but something that empowers the future of development. It is in this context that we also, in the United Nations, see ourselves as an enabler of nations to act together. These are difficult times. We are drifting apart. We are celebrating differences more than that which unites us. We are in conflict with one another far too often, when in fact we live in a time where acting together is the only option we have. Governments and business are a product of this moment, and I hope that in tonight's celebration of the individual stories that we will hear, but also in the spirit of recognizing that we need one another, the legitimacy of government with the ingenuity of entrepreneurs, the power of the rule of law to protect us with the power of market, ingenuity, energy, creativity, to give us the things that allow us to truly claim that we are a generation that is, in generic and general terms, wealthier, better educated, with more technology, more opportunity and more options to act than any generation that has gone before us. What a tragedy in history it would be if we failed to recognize how important it is that we work together in our families, our communities, our nations, between government, between business, and as a global family. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those important reminders, and for ending on an important note by using the term family, which is a very term used in the first line of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, which says that we all belong to the same family and have the same inherent dignity. Thank you so much for that reminder. I met a colleague of yours from the UNDP, and I said to her, well, if you NDP, I'll NDP too. My wife told me that wordplay wouldn't work, but I insisted I would try. Now, they say that birthdays are good for you. The more you have, the older you get. Which birthday we are actually celebrating for the Business for Peace Foundation depends a bit on how you measure it and what you take as the starting point. But it's been 10 years of Honourees. So this is a good time to invite up with us on stage the founder and executive chair of the Business for Peace Foundation to look back on a decade of business for peace. This man has been an active business entrepreneur, investment banker and investor for more than 30 years. But much more than that, he is one of those people who make things happen. I'd like to paraphrase, as a philosopher, the philosopher Voltaire, and say that if this man hadn't existed, I would have had to invent him. I will now venture something almost impossible, which is to keep an interview with him within 8.5 minutes. But Per, let's give it a try. Please welcome to the stage, Per Saksegård. Per, wonderful to be up here again. This is getting to be a tradition with these yearly events, and I know quite a lot of people here. Look forward to being here. Now, you're a modest man, so I'm sure that you would say that, well, the Business for Peace Foundation is really a lot of people. There are so many people contributing to what happens and to an event like this. Nonetheless, it wouldn't have happened without you. So please, be a bit personal. Tell me a bit about your motivation for getting started with this project.
Yeah, then I'm probably like 15 years back in time. Well, life had beaten me up a little bit. I'd gone through a divorce, feeling the pain of a changing vision of where life was going. And it touched upon something in me, starting basically, I guess, like everybody, I get a little bit emotional now, yeah. That goes through a divorce. And that's what is really the way to get a good life lived. And having been a businessman, going out of business school, focusing on believing that the road to happiness came through success and money gain. I learned that you should be wary of what you worship, because you can end up becoming what you desire. And it gets emotional here, but
I have a picture right here, so it'll be okay.
But in a way, what insight I got was that the relationship between happiness and money is a curve that goes probably like this. If you don't have it, it's terrible. But at a surprisingly low level, the marginal utility or the marginal happiness starts to decrease. And out here, you can be a drug addict on money. So in a way, the way to happiness through money is not a good one. But I, when reflecting, saw that it's another curve going this way. And that's the curve of making a difference to other people. It always goes up. So, to get those two curves to go together, that is being business worthy. And that is, in my mind, maybe how to get a good business life lived. And starting reflecting about this, it struck me that this is really about what does it mean to be a business person? Is this the way to think as an identity, for your identity when you look yourself in the mirror every morning? Am I this kind of a business person, or am I this kind of a business person? And I think down here, business people are primarily people. And when you start reflecting on this, you see that this idea, in fact, resonates on three levels simultaneously. It resonates on the identity of being a business person. But it resonates competitive-wise on the business level as well, because business is very much about talents. How do you get and create, and how do you attract talents? You attract talents not because of money. Young talents want to be proud of what they do. They don't want to have to excuse their boss. There's a saying that money can motivate, but no amount can inspire. You need a bigger ideal, a bigger idea to really be inspired. And the energy that can be released by working for a bigger purpose than just money is immense. And you can see now in these times, this is what young people are looking for. Purpose is the language of the young and the millennium generation.
Yeah.
So it resonates competitive-wise on a business level. But if business were thinking like this, it will also resonate on societal level. Because this is then business trying to contribute to society, trying to help improve society, which is the vision of the foundation.
Yeah.
So summing it all up, I felt that this really is an idea worth spreading.
Fantastic. As you can see, it's easy to be an interviewer. This is very inspirational, and I'd like to share with you that when I teach business ethics, and this is some advice to all of you who do teach business ethics, I actually recommend that my students go to the Business for Peace website and read about the Honourees. I mean, it's the greatest curriculum. It's a living example of what we are trying to encapsulate with the term business ethics or business worthiness. So tell me, what do you think is the importance of having these examples, which need not be perfect human beings? We all make mistakes, but they are still people who show us the way. Do we need more of that?
Absolutely. And this is, in fact, going back to when this started, we were thinking, is it naive? Can this be basically scaled? And I was in my car on my way to the mountain and my cottage there, and I was hearing a radio program where two professors from the University of Oslo were discussing a research project they had. They had asked some 300 people to get into a football court here in Oslo and be part of this experiment. They were not told what this was all about, but they were given a few hundred NOK to participate.
That's Norwegian krone.
Yes, not much, but still not. They showed up on a cold October Saturday at 10 o'clock, and one of the professors said on the megaphone, "Sorry, we're running a little bit late, but can't you just go around here at the football court and we'll, in 15-20 minutes, we will talk and tell you all about this." The point was that the experiment has already started. About 15 people of those 300 had been told to go in a certain pattern. And within those 15-20 minutes, all those 300 people went in the same pattern. And then it struck me, and this is academically called the minority rule, that when somebody wants something strong, a minority of 3 to 5% can change the population's way of thinking. And when it struck me that business is now, for the first time in history, connected through the internet, through the mobile phone, this we can do. This we can do. The role model sitting here. We all know that a young guy of 10 years old who wants to be the Messi football player, best in the world, he look up to somebody. Why don't business people have somebody to look up to?
And that leads me to my final question. We have 45 seconds left of this, but try within 45 seconds to tell us the vision. Let's say 10 years from now. 10 years from now, I'm hoping we'll still meet here. But where do you hope that the world is in terms of business and peace?
I hope that the concept of being business worthy has been set and understood to be a household name and the way we think about success in business. That we really think about this is the identity we would like business to be.
Fantastic, Per. Thank you. Thank you so much. We will now move to the stage where you will no longer just be sitting there. Because now we're actually getting to the heart of this. I'd like to be a little bit personal. The fact that I'm also on the Nobel Committee has nothing to do with this award. I'm not even up on stage in order not to create any sort of confusion while they're handing them out. But I would say that it's a pleasure and an honor to see you here, Madame Bouchmaoui, who was one of the representatives of the Tunisian Dialogue Quartet, representing business and the employers back in 2015. It is so wonderful to see you here in this hall again. We'll see more of them. It gives this special feeling when you have a chance to spend time with these people. Your Royal Highness, I heard a funny story about your father. When he was Crown Prince, was accompanying his father, the King Olaf, on a visit to a village out west. And he falls behind by a few feet, so the king is walking ahead and someone comes up to the crown prince and says, "If you hurry now, you'll get to see the king." Well, we're all here, we're ready to see these people, to hear more and to see the award ceremony. So I'll say, as the executive supervisor of the Eurovision Song Contest, Jon Olasan would say on Saturday, take it away.
Honourees are business leaders who prove that there are other ways to think about value creation than financial profits. Business-worthy means running a successful business that, at the same time, makes the world a better place. Trust cannot be purchased. It must be earned. Today's business leaders can be the catalyst for change by transforming the traditional business landscape. If you're not here to improve society, then why are you here? peace, nothing can work well. It is important for all businesses to help build peace. Contributing to making the world a better place has to be as important, if not more so, than the bottom line. As CEOs, we don't need to have more, we need to do more. When we have tools and resources to solve problems, we have to use them. Business for Peace, inspiring the higher purpose of business.
In a world of imbalance, the 2019 Honourees have taken the initiative to establish and grow businesses that offer opportunities for women, minorities, diverse and disadvantaged groups. They are business leaders who prove both to society and to the global business community that there are other ways to think about value creation than financial profits. They had worked tirelessly to counteract inequalities, encouraging inclusion and democratizing access to health, aid, and work. The 2019 Honourees are using technology to provide health services to the disadvantaged, spearheading gender equality, pushing the private sector to take responsibility in the refugee crisis, and promoting the merits of social inclusivity. Their success shows how businesses can and should contribute to solving societal challenges. Agbor Ashumanyi Ako receives the award for his business-worthy efforts to create a world free of maternal and infant mortality by using last-mile technologies. He and his colleagues have built an inspiring social enterprise that empowers marginalized women through mobile health solutions, offering pregnant women and new mothers in Cameroon access to health information and care. With GiftedMom, Dr. Agbor demonstrates the importance of how startups in the Global South can positively impact lives on a large scale, contributing to a more equitable and peaceful society. Congratulations to Dr. Agbor. Ms. Lutambi, please join us to receive the award on his behalf.
Summit attendees, I am deeply honored to receive the Business for Peace Award by the Business for Peace Foundation and nominated by Business Call to Action Unfortunately, I am not able to attend the summit due to a transition period that is occurring presently at the company for which my presence is needed. But I am glad that Joanne and Gemma is representing me right there. This Business for Peace Award is significant to prove the progress that is happening at the level of GiftedMom, but also it is just a baseline to say there is still lots of things that are to be done. And I want to encourage all the great minds out there, keep doing what you are doing for those at the bottom of the pyramid, so that we can live in a peaceful world. And for all those that have been accomplishing, and for all the other honorees, I want to say kudos to you, and we keep moving on, the journey keeps going. Thank you so much, Business for Peace Foundation. Thank you, Business Call to Action, and thank you all for the great things that you are doing.
Alice Lowe receives the award for being an outspoken advocate of business-worthy values. Alice is a sustainable development goal pioneer who is passionate about female empowerment and making a difference in challenging environments. She has made women's empowerment CTG's business priority, as she believes it's key to economic growth and an essential step towards sustainable peace. Through your hard work, CTG has become a successful, sustainable company providing support to those who need it most. Congratulations, Alice Lowe. Please join us to receive the award.
Your Royal Highness, Lords, ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely privileged and rather humbled to be standing in this stunning Oslo City Hall where former Business for Peace awardees and Nobel Peace Prize laureates have been recognised. It definitely caught me by surprise when I was told I'd won this prestigious award. And thank you very much to the Business for Peace Foundation for recognising our achievements. I say our because I refer to the incredible team behind me. With over 3,000 staff operating in some of the world's most challenging environments, I couldn't have achieved this without them. I light the candle, but it's my staff who actually carry the torch. And they drive our social initiatives in the countries where they're needed the most. When CTG started supporting humanitarian projects back in 2006 in Afghanistan, it was a business idea. And at the time I hadn't identified how much of a wider impact and the ripple effect we could actually create in the communities. CTG staff can be found ensuring food gets delivered to those that need it, supporting those with emergency medical attention or rebuilding schools and infrastructure damaged and destroyed by conflict. But we're now being recognised for using our voice and running socially impactful initiatives which align with the Sustainable Development Goal targets of creating change. Our objective is not to limit how much we can help the incredible aid organisations who respond to emergency and crisis situations, but to share their values. In a way, I'm lucky because the nature of our business, enabling humanitarian projects, means that CTG is involved in making a difference and supporting humanitarian agencies in some of the most challenging parts of the world, like Somalia, Libya, and Gaza. We could have left it just at that. But when the UN launched the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, I realized we could do an awful lot more. One of the SDGs that I wanted to take place on was SDG 5 for gender equality. Even though it's incredibly difficult, I wanted CTG to tackle it in some of the most gender-biased countries in the world. It's not an easy target that I've set the company, and it relies on our clients' involvement and agreement from all that women have a right in the workplace and marketplace, and that they can be an asset. Our social impact is part of our business strategy, which includes programs and projects which are embedded in our organisation's operations, and they just form part of how we actually do business. And these projects are brought through life through our activities. Our primary project in ensuring an inclusive workplace is a recruitment initiative called Female First, which pledges to create job opportunities for women in conflict settings and has a goal of 30% of all of our project-related roles being represented by women by 2030. Another initiative I'm proud of is CTG Giving, which in partnership with a local human rights foundation called Elm Peace, last year ran an entrepreneurship training for survivors of gender-based violence in Somalia. And we gave a grant to 3 women to set up a business who were on this course. I could spend hours explaining how we approach our social impact, but we'll give just one piece of advice. Have a strategy and get all of your staff engaged. Our overall approach to our social impact embeds our ethos and brand name, Committed to Good, into policy and action. And we commit to continuing to improve and expand our sustainability commitment. I've been inspired by many people. CTG staff, people who put cause first to make things happen on the ground, people who have a passion to work in places like Ebola treatment clinics and generally make the world a better place. People in my family have inspired and challenged me. And I would like to finish by saying an enormous thank you to all for encouraging me and those who follow my leadership and share my vision for doing good whilst doing good business. And it has to go without saying to my incredible family, my husband, who joined me today, and my beautiful daughter, who support my slightly crazy work and travel schedule. Collectively, I hope you will help me continue to be business worthy and keep carrying that torch for me in the places that matter. Thank you to the Business Peace for that foundation and to those that selected me, and congratulations to Agbor and Hamdi.
Hamdi Ulukaya. Hamdi receives the award for his business-worthy values in leading Chobani and for being an advocate of ethical and responsible business. He believes that business is the strongest, most effective way to change the world. As an exceptional entrepreneur and humanitarian, he is a role model who embraces inclusion and supports minorities, both through offering employment opportunities to legally resident immigrants and refugees in the United States, and by promoting these values through the work of his TAN Foundation. Congratulations, Hamdi Ulukaya. Please join us to receive the award.
just want to make sure that Per and his team do know I just make yogurt, nothing else. I just want to make sure, that's all. Your Honor, Your Highness, Mr. Mayor, guests, and most of all, citizens of Oslo, I am really, really honored to be here today. The words cannot describe it. This special place, this special city, and this special reason, peace, and very unusual topic, business, and coming together with peace, can only be possible with someone like Per and his vision and his team. And I'm very happy that this organization exists, this event happens, and to bring people like us all around the world to meet, to celebrate, to inspire, to learn from each other. I said I'm only a yogurt maker because when I started my journey, I never thought one day I would be sitting here and there would be a Kurdish song would be played in the beginning, and I would remember my mother, that in eastern part of Turkey, and I trusted those 4 people in a lonely upstate New York town, that we could do it, because everything we needed, we had it, except money. That can only be earned, that can only be obtained. What's lacking is those human spirits, those characters, those wealths, that we can never let go. And growing up in those mountains, I never thought I would be a businessman one day, or business person. I thought the vision, the view of the business people were so disconnected from the shepherds of mountains, or the farmers of upstate New York, or the citizens of a small town, or this town. I thought they wrongfully thought they were better than everybody else, as if they were chosen by someone. They made it sound like so difficult, so distant, that ordinary people cannot be accessed unless you're part of some kind of group. And I'm talking about the view where I grew up from. And I never wanted to be that person, because I thought being that person would be completely disconnected of life, completely disconnected from the gift of nature, the gift of human beings. And I thought that's worthless, and I never wanted to be part of that. But I saw a completely different view of business in upstate New York. And that inspired me. And then I found that I could be an entrepreneur, which I never went to school before, which I never had friends who are business people, who never read any book about business. And let's say, let's write it. And everything else is what I have done, or everyone at Chobani has done, is try to be the person, try to avoid the person that we grow up not liking it. How do we conduct business, but not become that person in a high tower looking down on people? Disconnected all the human issues that we're facing today. And when we woke up, they told us we've done something that never been done before. And I look back and I smile and I say, we just made yogurt. That's all. And if all our colleagues in the business keep making what they're making, but never disconnected from humanity, never disconnected from the earth, never disconnected from human beings, all the problems that we're saving in the world that has been mentioned in this hall many, many times can be solved immediately. It's a very, very powerful tool, like Per said. It's extremely powerful tool. We can innovate. We can be fast. We can come up with solutions. We can touch people. We have talented people working for us, with us, working side by side with us. And I saw it with the topic of refugees. In 3 years, we could come up with 130 companies worldwide, offer thousands of jobs to refugees, reach out to where they are, and offer solutions. And together, we have power. And that is worth being in the business field. Everything else, what Per said, is I 100% agree. It does not bring happiness. But when it's used for the right reason,
like two of my colleagues did here, which I'm honored to be next to it, you can move the mountains and magic start happening. From this hall, this special hall, and in front of these amazing people and this beautiful city, I am very, very inspired and very hopeful that my view as a growing up in a Kurdish mountain in Turkey, hating business, is going to completely change by this new generation of businesses and CEOs, that we all want to grow up to be that. And with that dream, I will go back and make some more yogurt. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This is equally inspirational every year, because we don't just get to hear about business ideas, but we hear about experiences. I've written down some of the words used here: trust, inspiration, innovation, but maybe most of all, togetherness and passion. We live in a world where people say that there are dangers of conflict brewing. We read about the United States and Iran. We worry that we will not manage to solve differences like that. But what we hear through the Business for Peace Foundation is a message of being able to share ideas across cultures and to believe that it is possible to share those experiences and translate them between cultures. There are many other honorees here tonight as well. I can see many of your faces. It's wonderful to have you here together. Of course, many of these people have also taken chances. There are some risks. I saw a funny ad which says, "Parachute for sale. Has only been used once and has never been opened." Do I want to try that? Some of these people actually do. I'll just say a few words of summing up before we move on to our wonderful artistic finale. One of the tragedies of business as well as politics, in my view, which is so efficiently combated and fought against by the honorees and many others here tonight, is the way in which hard issues are separated from soft issues, sending the signal that the first are important, while the second may be popular but insignificant. Real business people care about profits, not about children's rights or the environment, right? And so the hard seemingly wins over the soft. Our world today shows us that such a dividing line constitutes a deep-seated fallacy. A world in which people are left behind by business or politics, where parts of the world becomes uninhabitable, where biological diversity is seriously threatened, where deeply harmful products are manufactured and sold through lies or manipulation, where employees subsist on slave-like terms, or a world where conflict is fueled by business, is not a world where we in the long run can even do serious business, or where a free market system can survive. Hence, both because it is right in itself and because it is right for business, we have to insist that those who conduct business are worthy of it. And I think that's the meaning behind this wonderful term, business worthiness. Look upon it as a license to do business, like a driver's license. There's a funny story of a man, maybe he was funny too, I don't know, but it's a funny story anyway, about a man who stopped for driving way too fast, and the police sergeant asks for the man's driver's license, whereupon the man has to reply, "Embarrassed, officer, I'm afraid I don't have a driver's license." "Well, lucky you," replies the officer, "because if you'd had one, I would have confiscated it immediately." It is better to have the driver's license. And I think that's one of those ideas that we need to bring with us. What sort of license should business people have today? Now, I think we all know, in order to segue into the final part, that music and the arts are an integral part of creating an atmosphere for peace and sustainability. In that spirit, let me acknowledge this year, as every year, the wonderful sculpture artist behind this sculpture. Bruce Nagels, who has designed the Business for Peace Award. It is a meaning and wonderful and powerful logo and symbol. I suggest an applause for Bruce. Are you here, Bruce? Thank you. That's something to have on your mantelpiece, right? Woo. As a special treat, we are this year also going to have a mini concert to end the ceremony, with me singing, actually. I heard this story of a young daughter asking her father, "Is it true that Auntie Mary sings for the prisoners in jail every Sunday?" "Yes, dear, that's part of their punishment." No, seriously, we are going to have Maren Sedvåg, as every year, taking care of the music. I'll come over to you because I'd like to ask you a few questions about your presence here tonight with these wonderful musicians. I agreed that I could stand here and lean towards the piano a little bit like James Bond. So, Maren, how wonderful to see you again. Tell me now, why you keep coming back? Because you have contributed to these wonderful ceremonies several times. Is there something about this gathering centering on responsibility and peace that also speaks to you as an artist and composer?
Absolutely. It's my 5th year this year curating the artistic program. And you know, to create an engagement for a cause, we have to appeal to the feelings, not just the mind. And for that, music is a very powerful tool. So it's a great honor and a true pleasure to do this every year. And I know I can say that it's for all the musicians involved. I get to research music from all corners of the world and try to figure out how are we going to play it together. We only have 1 day of rehearsals before coming here. And so every year I'm just as excited, will it work this year as well? And it always does, and it becomes a very special emotion among the musicians. It feels like we are part of something greater than ourselves. So thank you.
That's wonderful. We are going now to complete this ceremony tonight with an approximately 15-minute mini concert. A fantastic way of doing it, slightly different than the way we've done it earlier years. What a privilege and treat that is. Tell us something about the music you will be playing, and maybe a little bit about what we've already heard as well.
In honor of this year's award recipients, I have curated a musical journey around the world. I wanted to visit the cultures you are from or connected to, and it wasn't obvious finding musicians in Oslo from Cameroon or Kurdistan or Arabic, but I did. We started in Norway with 13-year-old Kristine Spakmobo on the national instrument, the Hardanger fiddle. We continued with the Kurdish song Zmane Kurdi. Now we're moving on to some Arabic music before we fly over to Central Africa and hear a piece of music from the Fulani tradition. Then we come back to Norway, where I have a little surprise for you.
Tell us a little bit before you start about some of these people that we are seeing on stage here.
We have Safa Al-Sadi over here. And when I first met him, he said he's from Mesopotamia. And then we have Adama Barry. He plays both the hodu, which is an African guitar, and the djembe, and he makes the instruments himself. Then we have Nawar Al-Nadaf. She came to Norway from Syria as a refugee 3 years ago. and she's now a vibrant member of the music scene here in Norway, playing oud and singing. And on violin and vocals, we have Darwan Abdul Karim. And the backing band is Ole Mofjell on drums. Christian Jacobsen on double bass. And I play piano.
Yes! Thank you, Maren. How generous of you to be here. I'll take over the microphone so you don't have to hold that while you're doing it. Oh, you need it more. That's fine. Well, it just gives me at least one more chance to be like Jon Olav, our hero from Eurovision. Take it away.
We will now end this mini concert with a surprise performance from the unge folkemusikere, young folk musicians. They are between the age of 8 and 13, and they play the traditional music of this very municipality. So they will start with a spring song, And we will finish this whole concert with Reinlender etter von Eppingen. Thank you very much for having us.
thank you so much. That was fabulous, or as we old Beatles fans say, fab. Simply fab. Thank you so much. We have indeed come to the acknowledgements section. Thank you to all the generous sponsors of the Business for Peace. Let us not forget. Thank you to the speakers and facilitators here, and not least during the important summit that was convened earlier today. Many of you were there. Many of you also took part in the launch of the SDG Impact Initiative. Thanks, of course, to our honorees and those who represent them, to the representative from our wonderful jury, to all former honorees, to our wonderful musicians and vocalists under the leadership of Maren Selvaag. I'd like to thanks to Johan Kleveforsk and the Kite Communications team who run things backstage here. I can assure you, it's not luxurious, but it's very smooth. I get small rolls to eat there, so it's but that also includes our many volunteers, and there are many behind this day. Indeed, to everyone who's made this evening and this day possible, thank you. We now need to move from here and out in the world to realize these ideas. As an old Swedish saying has it, it's not enough to be on the right track if you just sit there. And then the train will come. However, before we move, we need to observe proper protocol, which consists in us in approximately a minute standing up and letting His Royal Highness Crown Prince Haakon leave the room, I assume together with the mayor. That's good, good. The reason we do that is so they can get first in the taxi line. Seriously, I would like Your Royal Highness to express my and our gratitude to you for taking the time not only to be here, but for so tirelessly being engaged in the enduring fight for dignity, respect, and let us add today, business worthiness. And with that, I also quite simply say, tusen takk, thank you. As we say in my tradition, God bless you all, and I look forward to seeing you all again next year. Thank you.